Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2022 film M3gan, and I'm going to say for the record, I don't like the 3 that they ended up using in this for the E. I think it's kind of dumb, but, to each their own. Anyway, M3gan, directed by Gerard Johnstone, who also did Housebound, which I did enjoy. Terry Teo, the Jackie Brown Diaries. I think it's just Jackie. It's spelled kind of weird. And The New Legends of Monkey. A lot of those I haven't seen, but I did see Housebound. Written by Akela Cooper, who also wrote scripts for Grimm, the show Grimm, the show The 100, the show Luke Cage, the script for Hellfest, which is terrible, and Malignant, which is actually a lot of fun. Also, apparently the stories by James Wan, who's obviously most well known for like Saw and the Insidious franchise, the Conjuring franchise, Malignant, all that good stuff. I don't understand the story by, because this is a story that's been used by many people before. I mean, Chucky's the biggest one that is the inspiration for the most part. But and actually, I'll say up front, Uncle Pete had said to me when he watched this film initially, this is what the Child's Play remake wanted to be. And I can definitely see that. I think it's definitely a lot better than the Child's Play remake, and it is very similar. Sorry if you hear my cat in the background. She wants attention. But yeah, I agree with Uncle Pete on that one. And I will say for the record, I enjoyed this film. I didn't love it, but I liked it. And you'll see that in my rating of it. The film was originally actually shot for an R rating, but it was so close to getting a PG-13 rating that they decided to just cut it down and release it as PG-13. I did not watch that version, though, because I watched it through Netflix DVD, because while it's around, I'm going to keep using it so that I don't have to sign up for yet more streaming services, because there's too many of them. So I watched it through Netflix DVD. I watched the unrated cut, because whenever that's available to me, that's what I'm going to watch. So I see what they most likely cut out. Well, I'm pretty sure I know exactly what they cut out. And yeah, the film actually seems like it's totally fine without the blood and gore to it. So totally good. This is actually a good example of a PG-13 film. There are good PG-13 horror films out there. I know people always say that PG-13 horror is trash, but that's not true. This is a pretty good example. Quick synopsis. I don't really need to say too much, because I'm giving the synopsis because this is a no spoiler review. Although I will talk about some spoilery stuff at the very end as far as like theme and subtext goes. Although it's not really subtext in this film. It's very much just in your face, because they do say a lot of things that I wish they would have just shown instead. But, that's my personal opinion on it. But anyway, it's about an engineer who ends up taking in her niece, whose parents just died in a car accident, and she's having a hard time kind of connecting with her niece. She's more of like a very engineer-minded person, doesn't really like dealing with kids so much, but she's got to make this relationship happen, and she has created this new robot, this new AI robot that can be a toy, and starts pairing this M3gan robot with her niece, and things go wrong. It's a horror film. Pretty sure everyone going into this film, especially if they watch the trailer, know exactly where this film is going, but it's still fun. So let me get into the other things about this. The beginning strikes a playful, humorous tone, which sets you up to not take things too seriously. That is important for a film like this, because since it's been done before, to add a little bit of comedy to it, to make it more playful and be like, hey, we're not being too serious here, really does help it out from people just bashing the crap out of it and being like, oh, well, everyone else who did something like this just did it better. It kind of says, wink, wink, we're not taking ourselves too seriously. We just hope you have fun with this film. And it is fun. I did enjoy it. The premise and where it's going is very apparent and has been done before. So the question just becomes, how is it executed? It's all about the execution of the film. It's not about, oh, this is a new concept. Oh, where are they going with it? Because all that stuff is extremely apparent. It's very well trodden territory. So it's all about, how do they pull it off? How do they decide to tell this story? And are you going to remain entertained? For me personally, I was engaged the whole time. I thought they did a good job with that. That speaks to the pacing actually being quite good. Some slower parts here and there, but for the most part, pretty good pacing. They do a nice job setting up the characters, and you end up being pretty interested in them. I thought the character relationships were pretty good for the most part, but there were some characters who I don't think were fleshed out all that great, and they did seem like they weren't very good stock characters. There's one character in particular, anyone who's seen it, the boss, I thought was a horribly done character, very over the top, very one note, which, you know, if they're not a huge character, I understand them being kind of more one note, but when they're kind of like stereotypical and ridiculous and over the top like that, I don't think they work that well. Make them a little more interesting, especially because if anything, you know, happens to these stock characters, which a lot of times in these horror films they do, you care about them at least a little bit more. Just saying, has more impact. There is some acting that's not so great. I will say that. For the most part, it's good, but there's some acting in there, smaller parts, that you're just like, that's not so hot. Yeah, you'll see what I mean. But, you know, you can't have the best cast ever all the time, especially not with a Blumhouse film, I will say that. Unless the money is going to Jordan Peele, just so you know. There are some interesting ideas surrounding the robot itself, M3gan. I like that they kind of threw in a little bit of their own flavor with the film because, like I said, you know, since this is well-trodden ground, you do need to do that. You have to have your own little twist on it. You have to introduce some new concepts or some deeper thinking, which I think they do a pretty solid job with in this film. I literally just read that. It's been one of those days. I'm sorry. There is some stuff that's literally said out loud that would potentially have been much better with subtext. Now, I say potentially there just because I know there have been some people who have commented on my videos and said, I actually don't like to think too hard when I'm watching horror films, so I like when they kind of call these things out. So I get that's for other people. It's not for me, so I'm always going to call that out because it's something that kind of irks me personally, but I do fully understand that there are people who are totally into that, and they welcome those things, so just saying. You know the exact moment things are going downhill. It's not ambiguous at all. Now, some people may like that, some people may hate that. I'm pretty in the middle on it, because on one hand, like, I'd like to have it feel a little more surprising to me when things do start to go wrong, when things, you know, make it a little more shocking in that respect. But I also do like, on the other hand, that you do know when it's going downhill, because then you know when to get a little more excited because things are going to get more interesting and more fun from a horror fan's perspective. So that's why I'm kind of in the middle on that. There's a good job done with one character of making you like them, but also seeing some not so great behavior within that same character. Again, the lesser characters aren't that great, but the main characters are much better written and developed, and their dialogue, all the dialogue's pretty solid. It just comes down to delivery. So the actors for the main characters do a much better job, but yeah. But the writing, pretty good. The robot design does look good, and it walks this line of being cute and creepy at the same time, so kudos to whoever came up with the actual design of the doll. In comparison, since I've already talked about it, the design of the doll in the Child's Play remake, whoever did that one, shame on you. That was terrible. That is how not to do it. M3gan is how to do it from a creepy/cute robot perspective. Just saying. That's how you do it. The robot ends up singing in this film a few times, and I feel like that's really odd and out of place. I hate that aspect of the film. That's probably the thing that irked me the most about this movie, even over some of the not-so-great acting. Yeah, the music, the singing, I understand where they're trying to go with it, but it doesn't really work that well. It feels very shoehorned in. It's not very natural, and you just don't need it. You just don't need it. They should have cut that out. Not a bad ending. I was fine with the ending. I don't think it was like a great ending. Like I said, you do pretty much know what to expect with this, especially if you've seen plenty of films that are like this. So yeah, but the way they did it, it wasn't bad. I was fine with it. I gotta say, shout out, great job to Amy Donald, who was the person who was the physical actor or actress for M3gan, the robot, her movements were great. Like, she knew exactly what she was doing. The voice was done by someone different, and that was good. I just think that really Amy Donald's performance as the physical acting of M3gan was really good and really stood out and really sold that character in the film. So she was amazing. I hope she gets more work. This plays with this is the part where it's kind of like more of talking about like the subtext theme stuff. So if you don't want to hear that and you want to go watch the film, go ahead and drop off now. This plays with a very well-used theme of humanity creating technology that can't be controlled and becomes dangerous. This has been done so many times before. It's a common theme that comes up because it's an actual social anxiety that we have and have had for quite some time. And it just keeps getting worse with things like ChatGPT, I'm just saying. It's the moral issue of just because you can do something, should you do something? That's something we end up seeing all the time, of people being like, hey, I have the ability to do this. I figured out how to do this. But then not stopping and asking that moral question. But what can this lead to, and should we be doing this? That's on full display in this film, and you expect that for these types of films. And it's done in a good way. There's also a bit of an aspect of people using technology to get kids out of their hair and make them substitutes for them actually teaching them things about life. It's that whole people not parenting because they'd rather have time for themselves or do other things, or they're just exhausted. I get that, but parenting is parenting. You know what you signed up for. So it's this whole like trying to have technology raise the child for you. I'm not saying that, every parent does that or anything. I know a lot of parents who don't do that, and that's awesome. But you definitely do have those people, and this is a bit of a social commentary on that, of just throw them in front of the screen, just let them watch YouTube all day, just let them do this, just let them do that. And that'll get me away from them so I don't have to deal with them. Well, what is going to happen with their development because technology is raising them? You are not raising them necessarily in that sense. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I'm not judging people. I'm just throwing some ideas out there because I myself am not a parent, so I don't know what happens in your thought process when you have kids. I intentionally have avoided that because I know it would not be a good time. So, just saying. Anyway, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm going to give this a very solid 3.5 star rating. I think it was pretty well done, even though it's not like earth-shattering. But I'm considering this one. It may show up in my top 10. For 2023, just because it came out at like the very end of 2022, so I didn't see it then, so I'm going to consider it for 2023, but it may not make it. I may see plenty of other stuff that, it gets knocked off the list, but at the moment it's on that top 10 list, but that's because I haven't seen a lot from 2023 yet, so we'll see. But would love to hear your opinions on this film. Go ahead and put it down in the comments. Do me a favor, hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that, and also hit the notification bell button. That way you'll know when I'm putting up new videos, which I'm doing 3 a week at this point. But thanks anyway. Regardless, I really thank you for watching this video. And until next time, keep it brutal.